Did you know that you can make your screen presentation or your text bigger in FreeShow? And the best way to do that is to use your templates. So I've got some text here, and it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And this is the size that it'll show up on the screen, and it will be that big. But if I want it to be bigger, right, the best thing to do is to actually go to your templates and check to see if you've got a template that has it in a size as big as you want. And since this is a scripture that we've got up here in our presentation or in the show, we need to go to scripture layouts and see if we have any that are bigger. And I see one here called big with no box 2 that I created. And then I've got big with a back box and a 2. And so we're going to go into our scripture and we're going to pull this drawer up, and I'm going to go to my templates for scripture, and I'm going to select the ones that say big. We got big no box 2 and big back box 2. So I'm going to go to no box, and it didn't change anything. So I need to refresh, and you'll notice that now the scripture is a lot bigger. Now, how did I create that? I went to my templates, I went to scripture, and then I went to a template that I had that I've already created. If you want to know how to make a template, the best way to do it is to go to a current template that was already there. So I've got a scripture template here. I can right click on that scripture template and click edit. But first thing I would say is to keep it and select duplicate. So you can have scripture, and then you got another one called scripture 2 with just one text box for scriptures, right? And so now we can right click on this one and we can rename it, and we can call it scripture, and I'm just going to call it scripture big. And this allows us to have a separate one for scriptures this big, and I can right click on that to now edit and make the text as big as I want. Right now, if I click it, this text, this number 1, is actually at a font size of 80, but I want it to be a whole lot bigger. So I can make it big by clicking on the plus sign, or I can just type in here and I say I want it to be 130. All right. And so now everything that's going to show up in there is going to be 130, but I also have it set to auto size. So it'll shrink to fit. If it is text in there that's too big to fit in the box that I have here, it'll shrink it down to make sure the text fits in the box. And so if you have a whole lot of text, you run the risk of it shrinking down to being so small that you will not be able to see your text clearly. And this goes for presentations or scriptures. So now we go back to our show. Let's go to scripture. We call that one scripture big. So if I go here, I'm going to scroll down in my templates, and I can go to scripture big that I just created, and I can refresh, and there you go. It automatically updates to show you the bigger scriptures. And now every time you go to a verse, it'll automatically have that scripture there with that bigger template. So it's in the box and it'll fit no matter how big the text is that you're using.